Our Christmas story for today is A Christmas Carol, written by Charles Dickens. This is a very old story and it's been told many, many times. So, first, let's read a little about Charles Dickens and when he wrote The Christmas Carol. So, the English author Charles Dickens, who lived between 1812 and 1870, was the most famous writer of his age and is still thought to be one of the greatest storytellers of all time. Can you name any other of Charles Dickens' stories? Great Expectations, Oliver Twist. A Christmas Carol is a true Christmas classic. It tells the story of how mean old Ebenezer Scrooge learns to celebrate Christmas and to think of others at this most magical time of the year. A Christmas Carol was first published on the 19th of December 1843. That's 178 years old and had sold out by Christmas Eve. Since then, it has been adapted many times for film, TV, and theatre. This storybook is an adaptation of Dickens's original tale and is the perfect length for a bedtime story. So then let's read A Christmas Carol, and retold by Joshua George, originally written by Charles Dickens. Illustrated by Jennifer Miles. So Jennifer Miles has drawn these beautiful pictures for us. Scrooge was hard and sharp as flint. The cold within him froze his old features and made his eyes red and his thin lips blue. He was a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, and miserly man. Scrooge's business partner, Jacob Marley, had been dead 7 years, but the sign over the office still said Scrooge and Marley. So Scrooge used to run a business, or he still runs a business, which was originally run by his business partner, Marley, as well. Scrooge and Marley. It was Christmas Eve and Scrooge was busy at work. Across the room, Bob Cratchit tried to warm himself at his candle. Scrooge was too mean to put more coal on the fire. So that's Bob Cratchit. Yeah, that's his assistant who's working in this big room, and all he has is this little candle to warm him up on a cold Christmas day. "Merry Christmas, Uncle!" cried a cheerful voice. "I am collecting money for the poor." It was Scrooge's nephew, Fred. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" "At least come home for dinner with us tomorrow," said Fred. "Bah!" said Scrooge again. "Humbug!" So Scrooge doesn't like the company of others. Yeah, he doesn't want to join in a Christmas dinner. At last, it was time to close the office. Bob Cratchit hurried home, but not before stopping to slide down an icy hill. It was Christmas Eve after all. So Bob Cratchit, he doesn't give up on his fun, yeah? So he slides down the hill and down the snow. Christmas Eve was the same as any other day to Scrooge. His house was dark and dreary. Darkness was cheap and Scrooge liked it. So Scrooge didn't like to spend money to buy coal and light up his house. Well, he didn't have any lamps either. All he had was a small fireplace, and that was enough for him. As Scrooge sat alone, he heard a strange noise, like someone dragging heavy chains up the stairs from the cellar. "Humbug!" said Scrooge. "I don't believe it." That's the noise Scrooge hears. But Scrooge's face changed color when a familiar figure appeared. I am the ghost of Jacob Marley, cried the figure, clanking the chains it dragged behind. You will be haunted by three ghosts, Scrooge. The first, when the clock strikes one. What happens next? Later that night, Scrooge awoke to the dong of the church bell. Suddenly, the room filled with light, and Scrooge found himself face to face with a strange figure. Who are you? Asked Scrooge. I am the ghost of Christmas past, said the figure. Follow me. So what is the ghost of Christmas past? I have to show Scrooge. The ghost showed Scrooge many Christmases from his past. So that's Scrooge sitting in his classroom all alone. I was a boy here. It showed him the Christmas when Scrooge was left to spend the holidays at school all alone. It showed him a Christmas party given by his first boss, Mr. Fezziwig. Old Fezziwig made us all so happy. So Scrooge remembers good times from his past and some not so good times when he was alone. Finally, the ghost showed Scrooge the Christmas he left Belle, his one true love, to concentrate on making money. Show me no more. So Scrooge is very upset, of that memory when he left Belle. Dong. Scrooge woke up in his bed again. When he opened the door to the next room, green leaves decorated the walls, and the loveliest Christmas foods were heaped on the floor. In the middle of the food sat a jolly giant. Come in, boomed the giant. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Oh, there's a lot of food here to eat. The second ghost showed Scrooge many different Christmases, but they're all in the present. First, it took him to Bob Cratchit's house. Although the Cratchits were poor, their little house was filled with happiness. God bless every one of us, said the sickly looking Tiny Tim. So, Tiny Tim is not well. And what does that do to Scrooge? So he thinks, will Tiny Tim live? Then the ghost took Scrooge to his nephew Fred's house. It was full of Christmas fun and laughter. In every house they visited, the ghost sprinkled the spirit of Christmas. Dong, the church bell struck again, and the ghost of Christmas present disappeared. In its place stood a tall black cloak. Are you the ghost of Christmas yet to come? Asked Scrooge. The ghost said nothing, but just pointed forwards. Lead on, said Scrooge. I will follow you. Lead on, ghost. The third ghost showed Scrooge Christmases that had not yet happened. It showed him people talking about a man who had died. That man had been so mean that no one missed him. My life is like this. It showed him Bob Cratchit's house. Before it had been full of noise, but now it was quiet, and Tiny Tim's little chair stood empty. What do you think that means? Then that's upset Scrooge, and he thinks, poor Tiny Tim. Finally, the ghost took Scrooge to a churchyard and pointed him to a grave. Scrooge crept, trembling, towards it and read his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. I can change, I promise. So that vision changes Scrooge. Then Scrooge wakes up. Scrooge woke up and ran to the window. What day is it? He called to a boy outside. Why, Christmas Day, replied the boy. Ah, laughed Scrooge, I haven't missed it. Merry Christmas, everybody. Scrooge gave the boy money to buy the biggest turkey in the shop. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's, he laughed. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. That afternoon, Scrooge went to dinner at his nephew's house. He said he was the perfect guest and joined in all the fun. And what's more, he gave a very large donation to the poor. The next morning, Scrooge was at work extra early. You're late, he growled when Bob Cratchit arrived. I'm not going to stand for this any longer. I'm going to raise your pay and try to help you and your family, Bob. So, Scrooge finally has a change of heart. Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and much more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. And so, as Tiny Tim said, God bless us, everyone. And that's the end of the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. A Christmas miracle, yeah? When Scrooge sees his future, he changes his present. Beautiful, isn't it?